Hello there. If you've been feeling stuck in the hustle and wondering how to move from just being busy to actually being effective, this episode is for you. You've joined Perpetual Motion, the podcast designed to help my fellow intellectual tourists master communication, accelerate your career, and level up your love life. I'm Dr. Mo Anderson, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and your willing guide on this journey to bigger opportunities and better relationships because I truly believe when you change your words, you change your world. Today's guest is someone who doesn't just talk about inspired living, he embodies it. Scott Maderer is a certified coach, speaker, and the founder of Inspired Stewardship. He helps individuals and business leaders go from overwhelmed and overcommitted, oh, I know that feeling, to intentional and impactful. He's also the author of the book Inspired Living and the host of Inspired Stewardship podcast. You getting a theme here, folks? Get ready to be inspired because he shares actionable insights on faith, finance, and productivity.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Dr. Mo.
Well, welcome, Scott. I am happy to have you here. Someone who openly talks about their faith and gives practical tips on inspired living is my kind of guy. So I've been looking forward to this. So let's
I've
just
been
jump
looking
right
forward
in.
to it too.
All right. All right. You talk about the difference between being busy and being productive. Can you share a practical method our listeners can use to evaluate whether their daily activities are truly moving them forward or just filling up time?
Absolutely. So let's back up a step first. Let's actually define that busy versus productive, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times right now we use busy as almost a badge of honor. That's how you start the sentence. Somebody says, "How you doing today?" It is, "Oh, I'm busy." It's almost our knee jerk response to that question. And everyone kind of goes, "Oh yeah, I'm busy too." We commensurate about being busy, but we all know that doesn't feel 100% right. It's like busy, it just means doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
So as an example, I could pay you $100 a day and I could say, "Hey, I want you to come over to my house. I've got a pile of rocks in my backyard. What I want you to do is pick up one rock, carry it to the other side of the yard, put the rock down, then walk back to the pile, pick up a rock, put it down, pick up a rock, put it down. And when you run out of rocks, just pick them up from the second pile and bring them back to where the first pile was, and do that all day long, and I'll give you $100 a day."
Right.
Most people would be like, "Well, if I need the money, maybe I'll do it for a little while," but they're not going to do it very long. Even if I paid you $1,000 or $10,000 a day, at some point you'd be like, "I
This is
got all the money
dumb.
I need. I'm
Right.
done."
This is dumb. I don't know why we're doing this, except I'm way more buff.
Yeah, I got some muscles now.
Right, right.
I got some sunlight. I'm healthy. I've got some money in my pocket. I'm done. I'm out of here, right? Because there's no meaning behind it. There's no authenticity to it. There's no autonomy. There's no feeling of purpose. It's
Right.
just being busy. And that's what a lot of us do. We just fill our day with stuff, and then we go, "Hey, we got a lot of stuff done. So that's a good day." And it's like, is it really? Because if the stuff you're doing doesn't matter, then you're not actually being productive, you're being busy. So the difference is productive is getting things done that actually matter. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a certain amount of just busy work that you just have to do because you're alive. At the
Exactly.
end of the day, the laundry still has to get done.
Mhm.
The car still has to get filled with gas. There's
And
things
tuned
that you
up.
do that aren't the big bucket items in any normal day just because you're alive and you're breathing. The truth is, the more of your day you can do those big bucket items and the less of your day is spent busy work, the more productive you are, the less busy you are. Okay, so now let's give you that practical tip that you were talking about. The first step to anything, fixing any problem, is awareness. If you don't know what's going on, you can't make any changes. You can't figure out, "Hey, this is what I want to do different," because you don't even know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And most of us actually have no idea where we're spending our time. Because I've asked people, like, "Well, how much during the week do you, I don't know, watch Netflix?" "Oh, a couple of hours." And then we do this exercise that I'm about to teach you, and they find out that that's wildly wrong. So here's the exercise. Anyone can do this. You can do this right now today. You can start it today. Just take a sheet of paper and write down the left-hand side every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes. So just the times of the day, starting from when you get up, 15-minute, 30-minute increments. and then set a silent alarm on your watch or on your phone that vibrates every 15 or 30 minutes. And when that vibration goes off, just jot down on the sheet of paper, hey, this is kind of what I did this half hour or this 15-minute period. You don't have to be real detailed. This isn't about keeping a log of, I drank 13 ounces of water and I did that. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just jot down, scrolled Facebook for a little while, answered a couple of emails. Okay. That's what you did during that 15 or 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Watch Netflix, whatever it is you did, just jot it down. Do that for 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, and then go back and look at that and start looking for the things that you're actually doing during the day. And I promise you, I've never had anyone do this and not come back and go, I can't believe I spent so much time fill in the blank.
Right.
We almost all have some things that we're doing unconsciously, just by habit, just by routine, and we're not even aware of it, and there's no consciousness of time, because the first step is to know, where is my time going, before you can figure out, hey, is that actually going where I want it to go?
That's good. It's kind of like, it makes me think about the budget years ago when I was trying to learn about personal finance, that type of thing. And there's also an app on my phone, which I don't know who put it on there, I guess Android, that tells me how much time. It gives me a weekly summary of where I'm spending my time. So I'm proud to say I'm not on social media as much. We have to be, it's the nature of our work. But like you said, there's some things that are just necessary and some things that are manufactured, emergency or sense of urgency. And then we're in that black hole of time and energy that's not.
And it is where you have to do some thinking too, because I spent time on Facebook. Yeah, but were you being productive on Facebook and producing content and putting it out there, or interacting with people or doing something, or were you just doom scrolling? I mean, because they're both on Facebook, but one of those is kind of productive time and the other one's just like, yeah, whatever. It's just, you don't really want to spend all of your day doing that. So there is a bit of you have to think about, what is it that you were actually doing, when you capture the time. But it still helps you begin to start looking for, how much time am I actually doing that's actually moving something forward, versus how much time you're wasting. By the way, this works whether you're a solopreneur, work for yourself, work for somebody else. When I was in leadership, I did this activity and then I went to my boss and said, this is what I'm having to spend my day on. I'd like to get rid of some of this so I could spend my time doing this other stuff that actually is, it's the stuff that you're paying me a lot of money to do, And he's like, oh, okay. And helped rearrange my schedule and take some things off my plate. And we delegated some things. And now all of a sudden I'm much more effective. I'm much more efficient. But again, he didn't know where I was spending my time.
Sure.
So there was no problem to solve.
Right. And you had the evidence to show, I'm doing these things, but is this the highest and best use of my time? Because I love that example, because we all have gotten overwhelmed, mission creep, job description that you can't even describe anymore. And people complain, or they just go to their leadership and say, there's too much on my plate. Okay, well, you need to be specific about it so that they can understand, and you don't come off as being lazy or not wanting, to be a team player. But it's like, really and truly, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I need to be doing. So and
it gives them the ability to look at it and go, well, okay, who on the team needs to be doing this instead of you? Where do we need to set up a new system or a new process or a new person, or delegate or whatever? So that again, you're doing it by yourself. It helps you, because as your running a solo business, you can look down and go, is that really where, am I the one that really should be doing this, or do I need to find a VA or hire someone, or even just sometimes look at it and go, it's just not even worth doing. Let me just get rid of it. Why am I even spending time doing that?
Right. Because we do things out of habit, or that our parents did, or our mentor did. And it's, especially now that we've got more technology to help, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can offload just on the chat.
You can automate, you can delegate, you can dump, you can, I call it the process that you look at. Is this something I do? Is this something I delegate? Is this something I dump? Is this something I automate? See, I can't have a D for that one. Is that what, or is it something I defer? Automate's the only one I haven't been able to come up with a D. So if somebody's got a D, shoot it to me. But it's, those kind of things.
I love that. I
You know,
love that. I'm gonna jump to the next question because that right there we could talk about all day. That might be another show.
that's another episode. It is.
Right, right. Your background includes both corporate and coaching experience. What's a common productivity myth you see professionals falling for, and what's the truth behind it?
One of the myths is that email is the thing that you have to answer immediately.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's the urgency of email. I call it the tyranny of email. And really, I can even back it up and broaden that out. One of the things I love teaching people is what they call the Eisenhower Matrix, which is, you've heard of it, even though you maybe not, haven't heard it by that name, but it basically is an idea of, you have two axes, so you end up with four quadrants, right? And one of the quadrants is things that are urgent and important. One of the quadrants is things that are urgent and not important. One of the quadrants is things that are not, let's see, urgent, not important. So the other one would be not urgent and important. And then the last one is not important and not urgent, right? So you think about it that way. It's just the four possibilities with those two things. And what happens is we spend a lot of our time, email is an example of it, doing things that feel urgent, but really aren't necessarily that important. They really don't move the needle. And usually we don't spend enough time doing things that are not urgent, but actually important.
Mhm.
That's the planning time. That's the white space time. That's the things that if
That's true.
you're the leader,
Mhm.
you're the one that's supposed to be doing this.
Right.
You're supposed to be figuring out the vision and the direction and the
Mhm.
strategy and the big level stuff. And a lot of times that stuff that feels so important because it's urgent. Your phone rings, and what do? Our head goes to the phone, we pick up the phone, we answer the phone. Real truth is, if you let it go to voicemail and call them back, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal.
Mhm.
Like if you're an open heart surgeon and you're on call right now, okay, answer the phone. But short of that, I've even had sales guys be like, well, if I don't answer the customer immediately, then, I'll lose the sale. And actually, no, stop and think for a minute. What the customer wants to know is that they're going to get an answer in a reasonable amount of time. So as an example, just creating an email signature that says in it, I answer email at this time, and this time during the day.
Mhm.
If it's an emergency, call me. Here's my phone number.
Yeah.
Stop and think. What they'll do is they'll send the email. They get that reply back. You can do it as an auto reply. They get that reply back and they're like, oh, well, this could wait till 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Not a
Yeah.
big deal.
It's very, very rarely that it's,
You know,
house on fire type of.
exactly. And that's the other thing. If they go, whoa, house is on fire. Well, they've got your phone number. They call you, and they can go, look, no, house is on fire.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put the house out. We'll fix the problem. So,
Good.
and sales guys are like, that will never work. But then when they try it, it's like, it works. And honestly, a lot of times their clients like it better because they actually know when they're going to get an answer.
Right. They're not as stressed. I have a good
They're not
example of
stressed
that.
out about it.
I use Thumbtack for little
Hmm.
jobs I need done around the house, and so I'll put in there, I can't remember what they call it, but the description of what I need, and they send it off to 3 or 4 people, and it's almost annoying to me when they call or respond immediately because at this point, we're not expecting that. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I'm not ready to talk to you, but thank you for calling me in the milliseconds since I reached out to you." So the other thing is that in this climate, knowing that everyone is so busy and so many of us are grinding and
Hmm.
solopreneurs, people don't even really expect that anymore. Now, if it's 3 days, 2 or 3 days, we have a problem. For boomers in particular, I think we've come up with a culture and values of, "I gotta be responsive,"
Right.
and we
And that's
didn't
not a
have.
bad thing.
It's not, but you can be responsive with that email signature. You're
Right.
still responding, and so we're thinking back in 1970 when you literally did have to call someone back for them to know, "I got your message." So some of that is just,
It's just habit.
acknowledging you don't have to do
Right.
that.
Well, and that's the thing. And again, I'm using email as the example. You can really broaden that out. It's your telephone, it's the notifications that come through on your phone. And now we've all got notifications on our watch too. We're getting it 24/7. There's all of this interruption coming in. And then especially if you're in the leader's position, you're not able to do what you're the one that's supposed to be doing. You don't
Right.
have that white space to step back and actually go, What is the strategy? What is the way to make this more efficient? What is the way to get out of the weeds and
Mhm.
into the bigger picture so that you stop just working in the business, but actually work on the business?
Yeah.
And usually we just don't create the time or the space through it. And email is one of those big myths that comes in and interrupts us.
Excellent. I think that's the perfect answer for most of us. That's exactly one of the big time drains. So, Scott, we hear a lot about finding your why or however you want to phrase it. But for someone, many of us who are overwhelmed, stuck, distracted by the geopolitical chaos, what's the first step they can take to begin to identify their true calling?
Yeah, this is an area that I think a lot of us struggle with. And
Mhm,
again, I want to lay some groundwork because there's a lot of confusion around even what that means to find our calling. So
mhm.
the first thing is a lot of times people think, career and calling are the same thing, and they aren't. Okay. The word actually that we should use in English for calling is vocation. And the word that we should use for the thing that we do that we get paid to do is career. And by the way, we use those two words interchangeably like they mean the same thing. They don't mean the same thing. Vocation, the root word for that is the same as the root word for vocal or vocalization. It,
Mhm.
it literally means to be called. That's what the word means. It's the purpose. It's the thing that comes that's bigger than you from that's outside of you. Going back to the rock example,
Mhm.
it's part of what was missing from picking up and carrying the rocks. You didn't have any purpose to it. You don't have any meaning to it. On the other hand, a career, the little root word that comes from is the same as the root word for cart. It means something
Carts?
that gets you from point A to point B.
Okay.
It's a method of transportation.
Mhm.
That's all it is. So our career is really just an assignment that we do. Hopefully, for a lot of us, if you can, you want to align and have some of your calling also showing up in your career,
Absolutely.
but it's never going to necessarily be a perfect alignment. And I actually know some people that are like, no, no, I'm going to go do my career over here because it gives me, I can make a really good living doing it. And it frees up a lot of time and resources that allow me to do a lot of the stuff that actually, is my calling over here. It's almost the engine that drives it. So that's perfectly acceptable if that works for you. That's something that a lot of us do. So that confusion between the two, I think, is part of the problem because we all look for this perfect world where everything aligns and everything in my life is exactly aligned to my purpose. And again, the laundry's still got to get done. That's not always going to happen. There's always going to be some stuff that just doesn't line up.
Right.
And
That can't be my purpose.
well, I mean, somebody out there, their purpose may
No,
be doing
I
perfect
meant me
laundry,
s I meant
but
me
it's not mine.
specifically. Right. I wasn't speaking to anybody else, and thank goodness for the people who that is their
Right,
purpose.
exactly.
Me ironing and washing, that ain't it.
Not me, So it's, and that's the thing too. We all have different drives and different
Mhm.
purposes and different meanings, but a lot of times the purpose stuff is that's that why, that's that deeper stuff. And a lot of times we're real generic with it. We'll say things like, I want freedom. Yeah, but what does freedom mean to you? Because I guarantee you, when I say I want freedom, you have a picture of what that looks like, and it's probably not the same as what my picture is because we're different people and we have different drives and we have different things that move us. So it is about specificity. So again, let me give you kind of a couple of quick exercises that people can do. One of them is a looking back exercise. The other one's a looking forward exercise. So it is good, by the way, to do both of these, and it's good to spend some time on them. These are not things to do quickly and just kind of check the box and go, yep, I did it, but actually spend some time with it. So the looking back one, just take a sheet of paper or do this on your computer and divide the columns, create 3 columns. And down the first column, just start brainstorming all of the stuff that you've done in your life. And again, I don't just mean stuff you've gotten paid for. I don't just mean your career. I mean relationship time. I mean that time you were a summer camp counselor. I mean mowing your yard, anything, just every kind of thing and role or assignment or task that you do, and just start writing them down throughout your entire life. So if you're, in your 50s like me, that's going to take a while, and just brainstorm them. And then in the second column, identify for that activity, what's something about that activity that gave you joy or gave you energy or that you enjoyed or that you loved, however you want to phrase it, the things about that thing that you really got some joy from, some energy from. Again, you did that naturally when we were talking about moving the rocks. You said, well, I'm buff. Find that thing, find that thing that was like, well, I mean, it really stank. I didn't like doing it, but at least I got in shape, or I got sunlight, or I was outdoors, or whatever. And then in the last column, identify the things about it that you didn't like. Well, I didn't like the fact that I really wasn't getting paid that much, and it really wasn't a lot of fun, and blah, 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 whatever. The things that you didn't like about it. I didn't like this person that I was working with. Okay, why didn't you like that person? Be specific as you can. This is one of those things that I've seen people spend 2, 3, 4 weeks on and just kind of keep coming back to, because it is something that requires you to think a little bit and think in a way that we don't normally think, in reflecting on the past. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sit down with that sheet of paper and you're going to begin to look for patterns. What are the things that just keep showing up in the love column? What are the things that just keep showing up in the don't like column?
Right.
What are the patterns behind the stuff that you've done that either gives you energy and gives you joy, or that takes that energy and steals your joy? And again, it's not about making your life where it's everything in the love column and nothing in the hate column. But hey, if I can do more of the love column tomorrow than I did today, I'm probably going to be a little bit more in alignment with my calling, because that's the stuff that's showing up.
Right.
Now, the looking forward activity, the reason why I like to do that is, looking back, you're kind of thinking about the past, and looking forward, you're thinking about, where do I want to go? This is the map destination, having the GPS so that you can figure out the route there. So I set this in a plane. I used to work in the corporate world. I was on a plane all the time. This is what the story that I'm about to tell you has actually literally happened to me. So it's kind of one of those fun things. So imagine for a moment that it's 5 years in the future. So 5 years from today. And you're on a trip and you're flying home. And you know how a lot of times on a trip, you land in an in-between airport, and you have maybe a 45-minute, hour-long layover, and then you pop on the other plane and you fly the rest of the way home. So as you land and you're walking up to the gate, you see those dreaded words up there above the thing, flight delayed. It's like, oh, great. So now I'm stuck in this in-between airport, and what I thought was going to be a 45-minute wait, it's now a 4-hour wait. So you do what anyone does when they're stuck in an airport for 4 hours. You either go find a restaurant or a bar, depending on your particular persuasion, to have a bite to eat or something to drink. And as you're walking in, I'm going to pick the restaurant. As you're walking into the restaurant, you're getting ready, you're kind of looking around for a place to seat, and all of a sudden somebody pops up from one of the tables and says, Dr. Mo, it's so great to see you. I haven't seen you for 5 years. I can't believe we lost touch. Are you here for a little while? And you go, yeah, I've got a 4-hour layover. I'm here for 3 hours. It's a friend that you haven't seen for 5 years. They moved away. Y'all got busy. You've just lost touch. And they happen to have a layover too. And so you grab a table in the corner that's kind of quiet. And as you sit down together, your friend looks across the table at you and says, man, Dr. Mo, how have you been? And you answer with all sincerity, you know what? The last 5 years of my life have been the best 5 years of my life, because your job is to write what comes after the word because. Write down what would make you say, what would your relationships look like? What would your spiritual walk look like? What would your career, your finances, your time, how would you be working or not working? How would you be spending pleasure time? What would all of these different components of your life actually have? What would have to be true about them for you to look at your friend and go, man, this has been the best 5 years of my life. Not that it's necessarily been perfect, not that everything, this isn't about writing down a Pollyanna story about how you won the lottery and now you're a multi-billionaire. This is about actually thinking about what would need to be true in my life to make me feel like, this has been pretty good. This has been the best years of my life. And write that story down. And again, be as detailed, be as specific, be as thorough as you can, and talk about all of the different components of your life. And what's interesting is, between these two activities, you end up with kind of this is what I know because of things I've experienced. And this is kind of where I want to go. And then you can begin that journey, because the truth is, finding our calling is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
It's, peeling back an onion, or if you prefer the Shrek reference, it's the layers of a parfait, that
Mhm.
you come in there and you're feeling out, I've got this much information now. And what happens is it's like climbing up the side of a mountain, and you get to this little spot. Now you can see the trail a little better. You can see a little further. And then
Good.
you climb some more, and it's like, okay, now I can see a little further. I can see a little better. So you have that situation of discovery rather than destination. And when you have that frame, it gives you a map that lets you kind of move in the direction of your calling.
I like that, between the previous question and this one, you've just really laid out a way to identify what brings you joy and what your goals are, because what I
Mhm.
see with a lot of clients is that aimlessness is because they don't have a destination in mind. It doesn't have to be your final destination, but then when you have that, you can look at things, opportunities that come before you, or how to use your time, and does this move me toward that destination that makes me happy, that makes me fulfilled, that's purposeful and practical for my lifestyle. And if
Mhm.
it's amazing to me that I meet so many people and they have no idea where they want to go. And of course, they're confused and life is chaotic and they're going here and trying this and doing that because they haven't gone through the steps that you just identified to really hone in on what is it that I'm supposed to be doing at this point in my life that will bring me joy, be good for my family, be good for my spirit. All of those things need to be accounted for. And I fear that we're getting to the point of just, material things and money, and then wondering why we feel so empty. So I really love how
Yeah.
you presented that, and the why behind it, not just do this, but this is why.
Yeah. And time and money, you mentioned earlier, this is kind of like a budget of
Mhm.
money. And honestly, the skills that we use around time and money are very similar because they're both finite resources. And one of the questions I ask people when I'm working with them on the finance side, and honestly, it's the same version, but it's the money side, is what does wealth mean to you?
Mhm.
And what's interesting is when you ask people that question, very few people answer with a numerical answer. Very few people go, "Oh, having $1 million in the bank." They don't. That's not what wealth is. They talk about things like being healthy. They talk about things like relationships. They talk about things like purpose and passion. They don't talk about an X number of dollars. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? The
yeah,
dollars might be necessary to get some of those other
those
things,
things,
but the
right.
dollars aren't really what you're after. You're after that thing behind it.
Mhm.
But people aren't, they don't want to get out of debt. They want the freedom that being out of debt gives them. They don't want to make $1 million. They want the freedom or the flexibility or the purpose or the passion that having that gives them. That's just the destination. And time is the same way.
Right.
Without a map, you don't spend your time in any effective way because you don't even know what effective is. You
Yeah,
don't know what success looks like for you.
yeah. Wow. This has been awesome. I wish we had more time, Scott, because I made notes here. We've got tips and strategies that you can take away right now, folks, and you too can live in an inspired way. Before we go, Scott, please tell listeners a little bit about your book and where they can find you online, find the book, and learn more about your services.
Absolutely. So I actually put together a landing page just for your listeners. So if you go over to my website, which is inspiredstewardship.com, and then just /motion, and yes, spelt like it is in the show. So MOETION,
I love that.
motion, then you'll find their information. I've got some free resources. So if I ran through those activities too fast and you're like, I'd really like to see that in writing, there's a way you can sign up and you'll get them emailed to you. Information about my book, my podcast, all of that is over there, as well as a way that if any of this has resonated with you, you can get in touch with me over there and I'd be happy to talk to you. So again, you can find that at inspiredstewardship.com /motion. The book, by the way, is called Inspired Living. So the subtitles Assembling the Puzzle of Your Call by Mastering Your Time, Your Talent, and Your Treasures. The reason why I use that analogy of a puzzle is I think putting together our call is a puzzle, but it's one where the
Yes.
picture on the box keeps changing. It's like as you start putting the puzzle together, you're like, hey, wait a minute, the picture changed. That's not the puzzle I was putting together. It's a different one. And you kind of have to
Or the dog
readjust.
took the box, and I don't even know what I'm doing
Yeah,
anymore.
that's true too. Or somebody ate one of the pieces because it's like,
Oh, I hate that.
I swear I'm missing a piece.
I hate that.
all of that happens to us because it is dynamic and it's a dynamic process. So what this is the book is just kind of a framework of how you can go through those areas of your life, your time, your talent, your treasures, and kind of bring that step of awareness that we were talking about so that you can just begin to refine and do it a little differently and hopefully move in the direction of your calling.
Outstanding. Thank you, Scott, for the time, talent, and gifts you've given to me and our listeners today. Truly appreciate that. We'll drop all of that in the show notes as well, folks. If you're on the YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, it's right there in the show note. If you're listening on audio, just open up that description and that will help you as well to reach Scott Maderer, our excellent guest today. And I appreciate you tuning in. I want you to like, subscribe, and share. Please, please, please help us spread this good news. And until next time, be safe and be well. Thank you.